Well, here's hoping that we've got a really good addition to the symphonic retro prog outfit. We haven't had a whole lot of like really big bangers this year, so I am hoping that this one kind of starts a new trend. So let's dive into it.
I wanna stay there for release. The birds did much if I dress. I wanna be
Eternal Snapshots by Hasse berg musical companion, and I really hope I got that name right. So Hasse berg, which I really hope I'm pronouncing correctly, kind of got his real big name stay over with the Flower Kings. You know, he was one of the main vocalists, main singers on there, and provided occasional guitar. And you know, it depends on which bio you're reading about this. Either this has been like 45 years in the making, and he's had, you know, a number of albums to his name, and or you know, back when the Flower Kings took their hiatus back in 2008, Hasse wanted to do some of his own work, you know, kind of playing around with some of the melodies that was going on in his head, and he just kind of wanted to put it down. Either way, he put out the first album within this whole musical companion piece with Future Past, and has been pretty prolific with this group since then, putting out albums in 2012 with Power Play, 2015 with HFMC, Parallel Lives in 2019, and We Are the Truth in 2021. So here we come to the 6th studio record for this band, and really the first one that I've heard from him. I didn't realize he was doing things outside of the Flower Kings, and yeah, you definitely, upon first couple of listens, I immediately realized that, oh yeah, this is the Flower Kings, right? Like, you can feel the DNA of the Flower Kings on here. This is kind of like that solo record of somebody that's so prominent in a particular band. And I gotta be honest, you know, I'm not gonna bury the lead in this one. I've enjoyed this record more than I think the past 3 or 4 Flower Kings records. Definitely since Waiting for Miracles. This one just really surprised me. You know, this really shows how much influence Ronan Stahl took from his fellow musicians within the Flower Kings, because there's so much of what I love about the Flower Kings found on this record, in terms of the concept, in terms of the compositions, and in terms of the actual like construction of these tracks. This was something that I felt was lacking on the last handful of Flower Kings albums, where you had these good ideas and you had these good passages, but they weren't really constructed in any way that flowed or any way that really came together. But in here, if they had just put this out as the Flower Kings, I would have been like, yeah, man, this is one of the best Flower Kings albums we've had since Some of No Evil. Now, bringing this back into the actual album that we have, I really enjoy the concept. You know, the concept is like, what makes us human? Is it our choices? Do we have choices? Is it all predetermined? Is it all destiny? Or like, do we actually have freedoms? You know, are we just a collection of choices made before that we now make now? Or is there some kind of cosmic overarching plan at work? You know, and a lot of these like really big brain concepts, you know, the big like kind of concepts that are going on here. And sometimes it can be a little bit daunting, but other times I think it can be really, really fun. If I were to say any kind of nitpicks, and I can't really say there are any things wrong with this record. I mean, the time length I feel is perfect for it at just over 47 minutes. It's exactly what we want within this kind of digestible chunk. I feel it could be laid on a single LP. I did wish that there was a track that's a little bit longer, because all of these are in bite-sized chunks. Now, even though some do go from track to track very seamlessly, I wanted a track that was like in the 10-minute or the 15-minute, in the 20 minutes, you know, something that I know that these boys love to play with. But instead, we just get those very nice bite-sized chunks. So again, gun to my head, that's probably the only real criticism that I have with this album. But other than that, like, this album is top-notch. You know, this is the kind of symphonic retro prog that I really, really love to listen to. It's got that symphonic aspect of it. There's a lot of, you know, overlays of sounds. It's very symphonic, as I mentioned, and it goes back to that retro prog aspect that I really love. You know, taking motifs from Yes and Genesis that I particularly love. You know, doing what Flower Kings really loves to do in that case. I also love how this album has, you know, the start and the end track being kind of a part 1 and part 2 of All We Want to Be. And that reprise of All We Want to Be is so beautiful and so lovely. You know, I wish that they had constructed like a 20-minute track around this piece to really allow that big crescendo that starts off this track to have a little bit more weight, have a little bit more substance to it. And a lot of what I love about this record is just kind of where these tracks go. Like the second track of Deserve to Be Happy kind of starts off, I don't want to say very generic, but it's like, it doesn't really add too much to the imagination, right? It's like, okay, but then when we get to the chorus work, like the ability to create this extremely catchy and extremely tangible melody, like right off the get-go, I'm like, oh, I really love this and I really want to come back and listen to it. And his ability to really capture a bounce, you know, it's so happy and so joyful with a track like Wherever You May Go is just so infectious. You know, I love that bounce. It has that kind of Chris Squire bounce to it, especially within the bass work that I can't help but love. We have a little bit of a tickling of a keyboard work and, you know, the overall flavor is just very happy. It's very joyful. And this is also found on tracks like No Messiah and Once in a Lifetime. Again, it's got that bounce. It's got that fun drive that I really enjoy. But not all the tracks are bangers. Only for me, I feel, is just a little too melodramatic. It's a little too... I don't know. I know that they're trying to do like this really short, intimate ballad, but I don't know. For me, it just kind of falls a little bit short. And like, I love The Yard. I think The Yard coming into the second half of this track is a lot of fun. Kind of has that bouncy bass once again, and I love how quirky and strange it is. You know, I'm getting flavors of Some of No Evil that I love. Like, that's one of my favorite Flower Kings records. And then we get a track like Searching for the Dark that I really appreciate. You know, it kind of does what Only for Me began to do, but it kind of continued and takes it even further. You know, this is a track that really develops and really grows, and that's what I really appreciate. Like, even though it starts very melodramatic and very lackluster, by the midpoint it really blossoms and really becomes something extremely fun. And then we go into a Sorrowful Mariner. Sorrowful Mariner. That is a fun combination of words. It's short, it's punchy, it's fine. I wish that it was a little bit more, I don't know, like it held two tracks together rather than it being its own island. But then we go into Blind Dog, which is very like Deep Purple. You know, we've got that really deep organ sound that I love. It's got that really deep rock essence to it that I don't know, I find it's very infectious. It's probably my favorite track off of this album. And yeah, it kind of brings the album home with that final All I Want to Be. So yeah, in the end, this was a lot of fun. This was an album that I kept coming back to. It was very joyful. And as I keep saying, like, this is one of the best things I've heard from a Flower Kings person for a very long time. If they had put this out as a Flower Kings album, it would have very easily been my favorite Flower Kings album from this decade, at the very least. I do see how the rest of the band really did help to round out the band of the Flower Kings, because there are missing elements. You know, I wish there was Thomas Bodine's song structure. I wish that there was Roland Stoltz's songwriting and his guitar licks on there. You know, Jonas Ringgold's bass work. You know, there's certain things on here that I can see are lacking from the main DNA of the Flower Kings, but that doesn't diminish my enjoyment from this album. I really enjoyed this one. So in the end, I think my final rating for this album would be Eternal Snapshots by Hasse Forberg Musical Companion. I would absolutely download. This is a great album to have on the computer, to have on the go. I don't know if I would immediately pick it up in physical format. You know, that's one that I'm like, maybe not. But in terms of like just good prog, you can't go wrong. So that's what I've got for Eternal Snapshots from Hasse Forberg's Musical Companion. What did you guys think about this record? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. And that's all I got for you guys today. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.